Welcome, dear listeners, to a tale that will pull you into a world where trust hangs by a thread, where whispers in the shadows hint at secrets too dangerous to ignore. Imagine me, a woman who's seen her share of life's ups and downs, standing at the edge of a new beginning, a place where strangers of all ages weave their lives together. It's a community built on hope, on shared laughter and stories, but beneath it all, something festers. A scam, so twisted and bold, it could shatter everything I'd come to cherish. This is my story, how I stumbled into a web of deceit and fought to unravel it, armed only with suspicion and a stubborn streak. So, come closer, lend me your ears, and let's step into the unknown together. This is Living with Strangers, how I foiled a major scam. I'll never forget that first day. The air had that crisp bite to it, the kind that makes you feel alive, and I stood there, bags in hand, staring at the sign. Harmony Haven, a community for all ages. It was like something out of a postcard, cottages lined up like little dollhouses, gardens spilling over with flowers, and a courtyard buzzing with voices. Kids chased each other, giggling, while a group of folks chatted over coffee. After years of rattling around in a house too big for one, I decided it was time for a change. A big one. Living with strangers, some young enough to be my grandkids? It sounded crazy, but it also sounded right. I hauled my suitcase up the path to my new cottage, a snug little place with a porch, just begging for a rocking chair. My hands trembled as I turned the key. What if I'd made a mistake? What if they all thought I was some out-of-touch relic? But before I could spiral too far, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find a young woman with a grin that could light up a room, holding a plate of cookies that smelled like heaven. "Hi, I'm Lily, your neighbor," she said, practically bouncing. "We're so excited you're here. I made these chocolate chips still warm." I couldn't help but smile back. "Well, thank you, Lily. I'm Margaret. These look amazing." She breezed in like we'd known each other forever, chattering about the community, potlucks every Friday, a gardening club, even a book group. Her energy was contagious, and by the time she left, I felt a little less like a fish out of water. Maybe this could work after all. The next few days were a whirlwind. I unpacked my mismatched dishes, hung a few photos on the walls, and stepped out to explore. Harmony Haven was alive in a way I hadn't expected. There was Mrs. Thompson, a tiny woman with a chessboard always at the ready, who winked and said, "I'll beat you in 3 moves, newbie." Then little Emma, a 6-year-old philosopher who asked me, dead serious, "Do you think clouds ever forget where they're going?" I laughed so hard I nearly dropped my watering can. But amid the warmth, something niggled at me. I started noticing patterns. A cluster of younger residents, always together, always whispering. A guy in his 30s, pacing with his phone glued to his ear, looking like he'd bolt if you said boo. And then there was Jake. Oh, Jake. Early 20s, all charm and dimples, the kind of guy who could talk a cat out of a tree. He was everywhere, organizing game nights, fixing someone's leaky faucet, cracking jokes that had everyone in stitches. "Margaret, you're gonna love it here," he'd said, flashing that grin. "We're one big family." I wanted to believe him, but something about that grin didn't reach his eyes. One night, I was strolling back from the community center, the sky streaked with pink and gold, when I heard it. Voices, low and sharp, around the corner of the rec hall. I slowed my steps, ears straining. "We need to be careful," one said. "Jake." I was sure of it. "If anyone catches on, we're done. Keep it quiet. Got it?" My breath caught. I pressed myself against the wall, heart thudding. What was he hiding? A prank? A surprise party? Or something worse? I told myself I was overreacting, too many late-night mystery novels, probably. But as I slipped back to my cottage, the unease clung to me like damp clothes. The next morning, I shook it off. Or tried to. I threw myself into community life, signed up for the gardening club, baked a pie for the potluck, even let Mrs. Thompson trounce me at chess. She cackled the whole time. But I kept watching. Jake and his crew were slick. Always smiling, always helpful, But those hushed talks kept happening. And then, a few days later, I found something that turned my suspicion into a cold, hard knot. I was in the communal kitchen, elbow deep in apples for a pie, when I spotted a stack of flyers on the counter. Glossy, professional, with bold letters. Invest in your future. Guaranteed returns with Haven Ventures. At the bottom, in neat print, contact Jake R. I frowned, picking one up. An investment scheme? Here? It didn't fit. This was a place for knitting circles and bad karaoke, not Wall Street dreams. I asked around, keeping it casual. Oh, Jake's been pushing that. Tom, a retiree with a Santa beard, said over coffee. Says it's a gold mine, but I'm not biting. Lost my shirt on a sure thing back in '98. Sarah, a young mom juggling a toddler, beamed. Jake's a genius with money. He's helping us save for the kids' college. Their answers clashed like thunder. Was Jake a savior or a snake? That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. What if he was scamming them? Preying on trust, on hope? I wasn't some caped crusader, just a woman who'd learned the hard way that if something glitters, it's not always gold. But I couldn't ignore it. Not anymore. By the way, dear listeners, I've got to pause here for a quick shout out. Our channel's growing faster than weeds in a rainstorm, and it's all thanks to you amazing folks tuning in. If you're hooked on this tale, and I hope you are, please consider subscribing to our YouTube channel. It's your support that keeps these stories coming, and I'd love to have you along for the ride. Now, back to Harmony Haven, where things were about to get a whole lot messier. The next day, I made up my mind. I'd poke around, ask questions, see what I could dig up. I didn't know it then, but that choice was about to drag me into a mess of lies, danger, and a fight I never saw coming. All I knew was that Harmony Haven was my home now, and if someone was threatening it, I'd be damned if I sat by and watched. If you're just tuning in, welcome to a tale where trust hangs by a thread and every friendly face might hide a secret. I'm Margaret, your narrator, and in Chapter 1, I moved into Harmony Haven, a cozy little community where strangers of all ages live side by side, supposedly in perfect bliss. But something's rotten in paradise. Jake, the golden boy with a smile that could melt ice, is peddling an investment scheme that reeks worse than forgotten leftovers. I caught him whispering about keeping something hush-hush, and now I'm convinced he's trouble. So I did what any reasonable person would. I started snooping. I began with a subtle approach, tea time chats, innocent little questions dropped like crumbs. So, what do you make of Jake's investment idea? I'd ask, stirring my cup, all wide-eyed and curious. Most folks waved it off. Oh, that's just Jake being Jake, they'd say, or he's a smart kid, that one. But not everyone bought the act. Mr. Patel, a retired accountant with a scowl that could sour milk, wasn't so charmed. I don't trust it, he grumbled one afternoon, peering at me over his glasses. Numbers don't add up. Asked him for specifics, and he dodged like a politician at a press conference. That perked me up. Mr. Patel could spot a misplaced penny in a ledger blindfolded. If he smelled a rat, maybe I wasn't just paranoid. I needed more dirt, so I took a less dignified route, the trash bins. Yes, you heard me right. Behind the rec hall, I found myself digging through coffee grounds and soggy napkins, looking for anything suspicious. It wasn't my proudest moment, but desperation calls for grit. Just as I was about to call it quits, I struck gold, or at least crumpled paper. A flyer, same as the one plastered in the kitchen, but this one had scribbles in the margins. Double the intake and Phase 2, expand to other communities. My gut twisted. This wasn't some small-time hustle. It was a blueprint, and Harmony Haven was the guinea pig. I shoved the flyer in my pocket and bolted back to my cottage, pulse hammering. What was I getting myself into? Sleep dodged me that night. The flyer haunted me, nagging at my brain. Who was Jake really? Where did he come from? Harmony Haven wasn't exactly a vault of secrets. No locked filing folders to crack open. Then it hit me, the community newsletter. Last month's Resident Spotlight was all about Jake Ard, hiking enthusiast, volunteer extraordinaire, and oh so passionate about financial freedom. Barf. But there was a photo. Jake, beaming, arm around another guy who looked familiar. The caption read, "Jake and his brother, Ethan, enjoying a day at the lake." Brother? I hadn't seen this Ethan around. Was he part of the game? My imagination ran wild, each theory darker than the last. Next morning, I switched tactics. If Jake was a locked box, maybe his friends had the key. Enter Lily, my sweet, cookie-toting neighbor. She was always giggling at Jake's quips and jumping at his projects. Innocent fan? Or accomplice? I invited her over for tea, armed with scones and ulterior motives. "So, Lily," I said, pouring her a cup, "you and Jake seem tight. How'd you meet?" She blushed, stirring her tea. "Oh, we hit it off when I moved in. He's so helpful, you know? Always there when you need him." "Like with this investment thing?" I nudged. Her face lit up. "Yes. He's got this big plan to take care of us, especially the older folks. It's so sweet." I nearly inhaled a crumb. "Sweet?" "More like sinister." "Have you put much money in?" I asked. "A bit," she said, then leaned closer, voice low. "But I might add more. Jake says the returns are amazing. I trust him." There it was, blind faith, the kind that empties bank accounts. I wanted to scream, "Wake up." Instead, I smiled, patted her hand, and said, "Just be cautious, dear. Money's slippery." She nodded, but her dreamy look told me Jake had her reeled in. How many others were hooked? That afternoon, I walked to clear my head. Harmony Haven buzzed, kids shrieking, Tai Chi on the lawn, Mrs. Thompson crushing her latest chess foe. Picture perfect, almost too much so. Then I saw him, Jake, slipping into the community office, glancing around like a fox in a henhouse. I ducked behind a tree as he vanished inside. "What now?" I waited. 5 minutes. 10. He emerged, a folder under his arm, and headed to his cottage. My curiosity blazed. I had to see that folder. Reckless? Yes. But I followed him, creeping along, sticking to shadows. Through his half-drawn blinds, I saw him pacing, phone to his ear. I edged closer, ear straining. "Yeah, it's ready," he said. "Enough for phase 2. Keep them happy, and we'll clean up." My blood froze. Clean up? As in, grab the cash and vanish? I needed hard evidence, but barging in wasn't an option. I needed a smarter play. Then it clicked, the talent show. Days away, Jake emceeing, everyone watching. What if I turned his spotlight into a trap? Risky, but it could work. For 2 days, I schemed. Public records showed Ethan had a record, petty theft, fraud, you name it. Jake's slate was clean, but family ties hinted at guilt. I quizzed more residents about their investments. Some dodged, some shrugged, but a few echoed my unease. Mr. Patel jumped in, eyes alight. "Margaret, we'll nail this fraud. I've got a nose for it." I grinned. Perfect. We're a team. Talent show night loomed, and my nerves jangled. I wasn't built for this, spying, plotting. I was a librarian, not Sherlock. But I couldn't quit, not with friends in danger. The hall was packed, chairs creaking, kids fidgeting, anticipation thick. I sat up front, hands tight, as Jake swaggered on stage. "Welcome to the Harmony Haven Talent Extravaganza," he boomed. Cheers erupted. I faked a smile, insides coiled. The acts flew by, a clumsy juggler, a lisping poet, Mrs. Thompson crooning my way. Then my turn. I'd signed up for a reading, but I had a twist planned. I took the mic, heart thudding, facing the crowd. Jake lounged nearby, smirking. I inhaled deeply. "Folks," I said, "I've got a story about trust, community, and wolves in sheep's clothing." Silence fell. Jake's grin slipped. I held up the flyer. "This promises wealth, but I've dug deeper, and it's time for the truth." Gasp spread. Jake lunged forward. "Margaret, what's this?" I pressed on. "Jake's scheme is a scam. He's planning to take your money and bolt. I've got proof." Pandemonium broke loose. Shouts, gasps, disbelief. Jake roared. "Lies. She's crazy." I pulled Ethan's rap sheet. "Explain your brother, Jake. A crook just like you." The room hushed. staring at him. He stammered, then ran, straight into Mr. Patel, who blocked him with a smirk. Not so fast. Jake deflated. I'd done it. The scam was dead, Harmony Haven saved. Or so I thought. But, dear listeners, this was only the start. Bigger dangers waited, and they'd push me to my limits. If you're just tuning in, welcome back to the wild ride that is Harmony Haven. I'm Margaret, your fearless, or maybe slightly terrified, narrator. In case you missed it, I just blew the lid off Jake's shady investment scheme during the community talent show, right in front of everyone. You'd think that'd wrap things up nicely. Scam exposed, bad guy caught, cue the applause. But life doesn't work like a neatly scripted movie, does it? I'd barely scratched the surface, and what I thought was the end was just the beginning of a much bigger tangle. After the talent show fiasco, Harmony Haven turned into a buzzing rumor mill. Residents clustered in corners, whispering about whether I was a savior or a nutcase. Jake had stormed out, red-faced and furious, escorted by a couple of burly volunteers while Mr. Patel stood watch like a guard dog. I figured I'd get a few thank yous, or at least a nod of approval. Instead, I got wary looks and hushed conversations. It felt like I'd crashed a wedding and accidentally knocked over the cake. Lily, my gentle next-door neighbor, was the first to confront me. She caught me outside the rec hall, her eyes brimming with tears. Margaret, how could you? Jake was helping us. You've ruined it all. I stared at her, dumbfounded. Lily, he was scamming you. I saw the proof. His brother's a crook, and Jake's been lying through his teeth. She shook her head, her voice shaky. You don't know him like I do. He's kind, generous. You're just jealous or something. Jealous? Of his smarmy charm? I wanted to grab her shoulders and shake some sense into her, but I took a deep breath instead. Lily, I'm trying to protect you. She turned and marched off, leaving me standing there, deflated. Was I the villain here? Doubt slithered in, muddying my certainty. Maybe I'd jumped the gun. Maybe Jake was just a dreamer with bad judgment. But then I pictured the flyer, the hushed conversations, Ethan's criminal record. No, I wasn't wrong. I couldn't be. That night, sleep wouldn't come. My cottage felt too quiet, too empty. I tossed and turned, replaying the talent show in my mind. Then, around midnight, a faint scratching sound jolted me upright. My heart slammed against my ribs. I grabbed the nearest thing, a hefty book, and crept to the door, every nerve on edge. I yanked it open, book raised like a club, ready to swing. But there was nothing, just a small envelope on the mat, my name scribbled in wobbly handwriting. I snatched it up, darted back inside, and bolted the door. The note inside was brief but chilling. You're playing with fire. Back off, or you'll get burned. My hands shook as I read it. A threat? From Jake? Or someone else? Suddenly, Harmony Haven's cozy walls felt like a trap closing in. But instead of scaring me off, that note lit a fire under me. It confirmed I'd hit a nerve, and I wasn't about to stop now. The next morning, I stormed into the community office, note in hand. Susan, the manager with her ever-present smile, listened as I laid it all out. Jake, the scam, the threat. Her smile faded, and she sighed. Margaret, I get that you're worried, but Jake's been a perfect resident. Maybe you've got this wrong. I shoved the note at her. Does this look like I've got it wrong? She read it, her face going pale. I'll look into it, she said finally. But please, don't cause more trouble. We're a peaceful place. Peaceful? With scams and threats running wild? I left the office steaming. If they wouldn't act, I'd do it myself. But I couldn't go it alone. Mr. Patel was on board, but I needed more help. That's when Tom stepped up, the Santa-bearded retiree who'd been burned by a bad investment once before. He was wary but smart. After I showed him the note, his eyes narrowed. All right, Margaret. I'm in. Let's nail this guy. We hatched a plan. Tom would mingle with the younger crowd, fishing for clues about accomplices. I'd shadow Jake, tracking his moves. It wasn't James Bond material, but it was something. For 2 days, I turned amateur sleuth. Jake was slick, always moving, always grinning, but I caught flashes of the real him. Late one night, I spotted him slipping into the woods behind the cottages, a backpack over his shoulder. I followed, heart thumping, branches crunching under my feet. The woods were pitch black, the air heavy with pine and menace. He stopped in a clearing, meeting a shadowy figure. Their voices were too low to catch, but then the figure handed Jake something, a thick envelope. Cash? Papers? I crept closer, but a twig snapped underfoot. Both heads whipped toward me. I froze, holding my breath, praying the darkness hid me. After a nerve-wracking pause, they went back to talking, and I backed off, pulse racing.
Who was that?
Another player in this mess? This was bigger than I'd imagined. Back home, I paced, my mind a whirlwind. I needed solid proof, something airtight. Then it clicked, the community office. If Jake was running his scam from here, there might be records. Breaking in, though? That was a leap I hadn't taken yet. I wrestled with the idea all night. By dawn, I decided. I'd do it, for the community, for Lily, for my own sanity. At dusk, when the office was deserted, I slipped in with a bobby pin and a silent plea. The lock clicked, thanks rebellious teenage years, and I was inside, flashlight trembling in my hand. The filing cabinets were chaos, but I found Jake's file fast. His application, references, background check, all spotless. Suspiciously spotless. Then, at the back, a scrap of paper with a phone number and YAR written on it. Ethan Roberts, his brother? I pocketed it and dug deeper. In a drawer labeled Financials, I struck gold. A ledger listing resident investments through Haven Ventures. Names, amounts, dates, but the numbers didn't add up. Money was disappearing. I snapped photos, hands shaking. This was the smoking gun. As I turned to leave, the door creaked. I dove under the desk, heart pounding. Footsteps approached, slow and steady. A flashlight beam swept the room, lingering on the open drawer. I held my breath, willing myself invisible. After what felt like forever, the footsteps faded, and the door shut. I waited 5 excruciating minutes before crawling out, legs like jelly. Too close. I bolted home, evidence secured. Now, I had to bring Jake down. But how? Another public scene? The police? I needed guidance, so I summoned Mr. Patel and Tom for an urgent powwow. Over tea and scones, we pored over the ledger photos. Mr. Patel's eyes sparkled. This is fraud, clear as day. We've got him. Tom nodded. But we've got to play it smart. If he's got partners, they could hit back. I thought of the note, the figure in the woods. We should go to the police, I said. Let them take it from here. Mr. Patel frowned. Not yet. We need more. Where the money's going, who's in on it? Otherwise, he'll wriggle free. He had a point. We needed the full puzzle. But time was slipping away. Jake was rattled, and rattled crooks get reckless. That night, a crash yanked me from sleep, glass shattering downstairs. I grabbed my book weapon and edged to the stairs. The living room window was smashed, shards glinting on the floor. And on the wall, in dripping red paint, last warning. Fear clamped down, icy and sharp. This wasn't just a scam anymore, it was personal. But I wasn't running. If Jake wanted a showdown, I'd give him one. I'd come too far to back off now. If you're just joining us, welcome back to the wild ride that is Harmony Haven. I'm Margaret, your slightly frazzled but fiercely determined narrator. Here's where we're at. I've moved into this quirky community where folks of all ages live side by side, only to stumble into a mess involving Jake, a charming con artist pushing a shady investment scheme. I've dug up evidence of his fraud, confronted him publicly, and paid the price, a threatening note and my home trashed with a warning in red paint. The community's divided. Some see me as a hero, others a meddling pest. But I'm not here to win popularity contests. I'm here to protect my new home, and I'm not backing down. The morning after the vandalism, I sat at my kitchen table, staring at that ugly red scrawl on my wall. Back off or burn. My hands trembled around my teacup, but it wasn't fear fueling me, it was rage. Jake thought he could scare me silent? He didn't know me at all. I might be retired, but I've got fight left in me, and I wasn't about to let some slick-talking crook ruin Harmony Haven. I needed a real plan, not just my usual fumbling detective work. So I called in my allies, Mr. Patel and Tom. We met at Mr. Patel's cottage, crowding around his table like a ragtag trio of crime fighters. Mr. Patel, sharp as ever, was already jotting notes. Tom, with his Santa-like beard and earnest eyes, looked nervous but ready. "We need solid evidence," Mr. Patel said, his pen tapping the table. "Something the police can't brush off. Right now, it's all suspicion and a few scraps of paper." Tom leaned in. "What if we tail Jake? See where he goes, who he's meeting. He's not pulling this off alone." I nodded. "Smart. I've seen him sneaking off, once into the woods with some shadowy figure. If we catch him red-handed..." Mr. Patel's eyes gleamed. "Perfect. We'll take shifts watching him. Margaret, you've got the knack for this. Can you follow him next time he bolts?" I grinned. "Just watch me." For 2 days, we turned into amateur spies. Tom took mornings, pretending to read the paper on a bench. Mr. Patel handled afternoons, fussing over his garden with one eye on Jake's cottage. I covered evenings, pacing the paths with a flashlight, trying not to look suspicious. It was exhausting, but we were running out of time. Then, on day 3, I struck gold. I was mangling my roses. Gardening's not my forte. When Jake slunk out of his cottage, glancing around like a hunted animal. He jumped into his car and sped off. My heart raced. This was it. I snatched my keys and dashed to my beat-up sedan, praying it wouldn't stall. It coughed to life, and I followed Jake, keeping my distance. He drove for 20 minutes, weaving through back roads to a sketchy industrial park outside town. The place was a dump, crumbling warehouses, flickering lights, the works. Jake parked by a ramshackle building and slipped inside. I pulled over a block away, my pulse pounding. Grabbing my courage, I crept closer, hugging the shadows. I found a busted window and peeked in. There was Jake, with his brother Ethan and a third guy, tall, tattooed, and mean. They were hunched over a table, papers scattered everywhere. I pressed my ear to the gap, catching their voices. "Almost ready," Jake said. "The investment scam's keeping them busy. They won't see the heist coming." My stomach dropped. "Heist? What the hell?" Ethan smirked. "The old geezers won't know what hit him, right?" "Most of them," Jake replied. "Except Margaret. She's a problem. Nearly tanked us at that talent show." Tattoo guy growled. "Need me to take her out?" Jake paused, then shook his head. "Not yet. She's got backup. If she vanishes, it'll stir up trouble. We'll handle her after." Fear gripped me, but I shoved it down. They weren't just scamming us. They were planning to rob Harmony Haven blind, using the investment scheme as a distraction. I had to hear more. Then my luck ran out. My foot slipped, kicking a loose brick. It hit the ground with a deafening clatter. 3 heads whipped toward the window. "Who's there?" Jake snapped. I bolted, legs pumping as I sprinted through the dark alleys. Footsteps thunder behind me, close, too close. My lungs burned, my knees ached, but I zigzagged through the maze of warehouses, diving into a narrow gap between buildings. The pounding steps raced past, and I held my breath, pressed against the wall. Minutes dragged like hours. Finally, silence. They'd lost me. I slumped, gasping, adrenaline still buzzing. Too close. But I'd heard enough. The scam was a front for something bigger, and Harmony Haven was in the crosshairs. I staggered back to my car and floored it home, mind racing. How could I convince the community now? Some, like Lily, still worship Jake. And with a heist looming, we were on borrowed time. Back at Harmony Haven, I summoned Mr. Patel and Tom to my cottage. The vandalized wall glared at us as I spilled everything. The warehouse, the heist, the threat on my life. Tom went white. Mr. Patel's jaw clenched. "We got to call the cops," Tom said. "This is too big." Mr. Patel shook his head. "With what proof? Overheard chatter? They'll dismiss us. We need something concrete. I thought of the ledger photos, the note, my shaky story. It wasn't enough. Then we get proof, I said. We catch them. Tom gaped. Margaret, that's crazy. They're dangerous. So are we? I shot back. When it's our home on the line. Mr. Patel nodded. Here's the play. We call a community meeting, share what we know, and rally support. Some won't buy it, but if we get enough on board, we can trap Jake and his crew. I loved it. Bold, maybe nuts, but doable. Tomorrow night, rec hall. We'll make them see. Sleep dodged me that night. Doubts gnawed. What if they turned on me? What if Jake won? But I thought of Lily, Mrs. Thompson, little Emma, with her cloud questions. This was for them. The next evening, the rec hall was packed. Familiar faces, some warm, some cold, filled the seats. Lily sat up front, arms crossed, radiating fury. Jake was MIA, which worried me more than it relieved me. I stepped onto the stage, knees like jelly. Thanks for coming, I started, voice wobbly. I know some of you think I'm trouble, but please listen. Harmony Haven's in danger. I laid it bare, the scam, the heist, the threats. I showed the ledger pics, the note, everything. Mr. Patel and Tom chimed in, bolstering my case. The room exploded. Shouts, gasps, chaos. Lily leaped up, tears streaming. You're lying. Jake wouldn't. Then where is he? I cut in. Why isn't he here to prove me wrong? She faltered, and the room hushed. Heads nodded. Whispers spread. Even Lily wavered. Mrs. Thompson stood, frail but fierce. I say we fight. This is our home. Let's show these punks they picked the wrong grannies. Laughter broke the tension, and I smiled. We had a shot. Then, the doors crashed open. Jake stormed in, Ethan and Tattoo Guy at his heels, their faces dark as storm clouds. Well, Jake sneered. Looks like we've got a rebellion. My guts sank. The fight was here, and we weren't ready. If you've made it this far, bless your heart. You're in for the wildest ride yet. I'm Margaret, your not-so-meek narrator, and here's where we stand. Harmony Haven, my quirky little community, is under siege. Jake, the charming con artist, and his goons have been exposed, but they're not backing down. They've just crashed our emergency meeting, and the air's thick with tension. I'm standing on stage, heart pounding, as Jake sneers at us like a wolf cornering sheep. But we're not sheep. We're a pack of stubborn old goats, and we're ready to fight. Jake swaggered forward, his eyes locked on mine. You've got guts, Margaret. I'll give you that. But you're in over your head. I forced a smile. Maybe. Or maybe you're the one who's underestimated us. He laughed, cold and sharp. You think this little gathering's gonna stop us? We've got plans, and you're just a speed bump. Mrs. Thompson, bless her, piped up from the front row. Speed bumps can wreck your car, kiddo. The room chuckled, and Jake's grin slipped. He wasn't used to being mocked by octogenarians. Tom stood, his Santa-like presence steady. We know about the heist, Jake. The investment scam was a distraction. You're planning to rob us blind. Jake's eyes narrowed. You've got no proof. I held up my phone, the warehouse photos glowing on the screen. Actually, I do. And the police are on their way. It was a bluff. My phone was dead, and the cops weren't coming. But Jake didn't know that. His face paled, and he glanced at Ethan, who looked ready to bolt. You're lying, Jake spat. Try me, I said, voice steady. Leave now, or face the music. For a heartbeat, the room held its breath. Then, Tattoo Guy cracked his knuckles and stepped forward. I say we shut her up for good. Fear spiked, but I stood my ground. You touch me, and this whole place will tear you apart. As if on cue, the residents rose, slowly but with purpose. Mr. Patel brandished his cane like a sword. Lily, still teary, clutched a rolling pin. Even little Emma waved a stuffed bear menacingly. Jake's bravado crumbled. He wasn't facing a lone meddler anymore. He was facing a united front. Ethan tugged his sleeve. Let's go, man. It's not worth it. But Jake hesitated, pride battling sense. Then, Sirens wailed in the distance, real ones. Thank heavens. Someone had called the cops after all. Jake's face twisted with rage. This isn't over, he snarled, then bolted, his crew scrambling after him. The room erupted in cheers, but I sagged against the podium, relief flooding me. We'd won for now. The police arrived minutes later, taking statements and securing the scene. They found Jake's car abandoned down the road, but the trio had vanished into the night. Warrants were issued, and Harmony Haven was safe, at least for the moment. In the days that followed, the community buzzed with a new energy. We held a proper meeting, no crashes this time, to sort out the mess. The investment scam had fleeced a few folks, but thanks to Mr. Patel's accounting wizardry, we tracked the funds and started the recovery process. Lily, bless her, apologized with a tearful hug and a batch of her famous cookies. I should have listened, she said. You were just trying to help. I squeezed her shoulder. We're all learning, dear. That's what family does. And that's what we'd become, a family, quirks and all. We even threw a hero's potluck to celebrate our victory. Mrs. Thompson serenaded us with We Are the Champions, off-key but heartfelt, and Tom led a conga line that nearly toppled the dessert table. But the sweetest moment came when little Emma toddled up, holding a drawing. It showed me, cape billowing, standing triumphant over a scribbled villain labeled Jake. She beamed. You're a superhero, Miss Margaret. I laughed, tears pricking my eyes. Oh, sweetheart, I'm just stubborn. As the sun set, I sat on my porch, rocking gently, the community's laughter drifting on the breeze. Harmony Haven wasn't perfect. It never would be. But it was home, and we'd fought for it together. Months later, Jake and his crew were caught in a sting operation 2 states over, trying the same scam on another community. They're facing a laundry list of charges, and Harmony Haven's residents are set to testify. Me? I'm just glad it's over. Looking back, I realized I didn't just foil a scam. I found my place. I'd moved here feeling lost, but in the chaos, I discovered strength I didn't know I had. And I'd learned that strangers, with time and trust, can become the family you never knew you needed. So, dear readers, if you ever find yourself in a new place, surrounded by unfamiliar faces, remember this. Sometimes the greatest adventures and the deepest bonds come from living with strangers.